Well, here we are. Wait, who are you? What's your name? What's your deal? We always start with that just to start off cold.
Hi, I'm Mike. I make video games.
Yes, he's Mike Arkin, and he makes video games. One of them is, well, we'll talk about it. You really make this. You made the remake of this game behind you here, sort of.
Oh, is there a game behind
There is a game behind you, yeah.
I had no idea.
Right. Is producing 200 games some kind of a record?
I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, you claim you produced 200 games.
Well, probably more than that by now. You know, I worked at a couple of companies where you did a lot. So when I was at Acclaim, you would be working on 10 or 12 things at once. Mm-hmm. And, you know, some of that was like, I worked on a Simpsons game and there was a Game Gear version and a, you know, Master System and like, you know, Super Nintendo. So you had so many different SKUs of one game. So it was really easy to get those numbers up. And I think by the time I left Acclaim, I think my number was like 67 or something.
Okay. And that was like what time span?
That was like 87 through like 92. I think.
Okay.
And then, you know, I was at Crave for a few years, and at Crave also, like, you know, we just cranked a lot of shit out. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess, you know, the term producer is kind of loose. Like, what is a producer? You know, my definition, everybody's got a different definition. Every company has a different definition. It's kind of like, in my opinion, a producer is the person who sort of like removes obstacles from the developers so they can finish the game. But what is your role as a producer, or has your role as a producer changed?
Well, I mean, I would say the biggest change, right, is that I've worked as both a publisher, producer, and a development producer. And those are literally two jobs with the same name, like diabetes type 1 and diabetes type 2. Like two completely different diseases, right?
One of them's the good diabetes.
One is the good diabetes, exactly. So, you know, as a publisher, producer, you're like kind of 1 foot into the development side, like keeping an eye on the developer who's actually making the game. And then 1 foot into the marketing side, like making sure marketing gets screenshots or video clips or, you know, whatever they need, box copy. And then also like working with the sales guys, you know, what is this game? You know, helping them. On the development side, obviously, you don't do any of that. You're managing the actual, you know, people who are making the game. So they're pretty different, you know, roles.
Yeah, and then like the publisher, producer, and the development producer have to like go to war with each other sometimes, right? They're basically
there is some inherent conflict, but I think it's like a natural. Like if you don't have some conflict, nothing good ever happens, right? So the publisher, producer, his job is to get as much game as they can for the pre-agreed fee, right? We're paying you $1 million for this game, and now I want a $5 million game for my $1 million. And the way I do that is I just, every day you ask for something else, right? Like, could you just add this? Could you just add this? Like, what if we just added, you know, 5 more levels or, you know, whatever. And the development producer is trying to survive and not go bankrupt in the middle of the project. So it's his job maybe to push back every time the publisher producer asks for things. And a good development producer will say no to everything.
That's me, yeah.
Yeah, but the shitty, you know, development producer is going to basically think, oh, I got to make my publisher happy and just say yes to everything. And then you get a better game, but the developer gets screwed.
You don't always get a better game. Sometimes you get,
well,
you know.
in the hypothetical sense. But really the important part of that was the developer kind of got screwed.
So, okay, so you've been a publisher, producer, and a developer producer. So as a publisher, producer receiving that pushback from the developer producer, how do you receive that?
And I think that's changed for me because I started on the publishing side, right? Which is more, the publishing side is more like the Hollywood side, right? Like I'm making a deal, I just got to yell at these guys and I'll get a better product, you know. And then I switched and I went to be a, you know, small independent developer. And I was like, oh, fuck, like, wait a minute, you know, I got to make payroll. Like when these guys reject my milestone, I got no money. Like this is horrible. And I think I came out of that, you know, a bit changed where I kind of understood the other side a little bit. And so, you know, now I think when I went back to being like more of a development producer, or sorry, more of a publisher producer, I had a lot more understanding of what the other side was going through. And I think it softened me a little bit, but I think that's good because, you know, there's a reality. You don't want to screw your team that are making a game for you.
Yeah, I kind of feel like some of the publisher producers now, though, the publishers are so big. In some cases, these publishers are big tech companies. They're not even game companies anymore. That the publisher producer almost has no leeway to even give any flexibility to the developer. I don't know.
I mean, and at some point, like the good projects I've worked on is where you had that, where you had the control to have that leeway or to be able to tell the developer, I don't care what the milestone says, like this is what we need to do because this is better long term, right?
Yeah, well, I'm kind of like, we're both trying to achieve this goal here. We're trying to make something good. And sometimes we need to change what we're doing or maybe do less of something and make something else better. And it's like, I feel like a lot of times now, publishing producers don't give you that flexibility.
Well, and the other thing I really want to say is like, things have changed a lot. Like everything you and I are talking about is this kind of old model.
Yeah.
Of a publisher who pays a developer to make a game. They're making that game work for hire, right? And that's a different, setup. Today, a lot of projects don't work like that. You have a developer made their game. It's their IP. It's, it's their baby. The publisher's just there to get it to market. Maybe they're taking 50%, but they're going to pay for the marketing. They're going to pay for, porting or whatever. And so, but there's so many different models now, and there is no one relationship. But even under that old model, I think it definitely works better if the publishing side understands the development better.
Yeah.
And I used to hear a story about EA, and the story was that their internal business rules were that the developer was going to earn royalties, even if they had to change the royalty agreement after the game shipped. They had to make sure the developer got royalties because they wanted the developer to come back for the next project or whatever there may have been a tax reason. I don't even know, all the details. And to me, that's the way to do it, right? I worked at another company where the owner of the company was a cheapskate, and he would be like, oh, there's this bonus. We had this bonus if they hit on time. And he'd be like, oh, they were 4 hours late. We're not going to pay. And it was like, well, under the spirit of the agreement, they hit it. And our job should be to, we want to pay the bonus, right? When you agree to pay someone a bonus for something, you want to pay it. You want them to be happy, or don't offer it in the first place.
Yeah.
And developers should get royalties if that's the handshake, right? You're going to do this, you're going to get royalties, even if you have to change the rate afterwards.
In my experience,
doesn't apply to any of my current projects.
Yeah, I just kind of assume that I'm never going to see any back end, even if it's in the contract, because I did actually have a project with EA once, and I back in the mobile days, and I think they accidentally paid me once, and then they realized, oh my God, we got to charge a bunch of stuff against him, so he doesn't ever get royalties again.
Well, royalty clauses in contracts require a lot of scrutiny.
Yeah.
They are certainly often designed that you'll never see anything.
And most developers, I don't think, have the leverage to negotiate some of these clauses into their benefit.
Well, I think most developers don't understand them.
That's true, too.
I had a very seasoned developer, someone who had been around the block many times, come to me with something. It was a deal with a major publisher, and he showed me the royalty clause, and I deconstructed it for him, and I was like, yeah, you're never going to see a penny.
Yeah.
They're deducting their E3 booth from your from your royalty stream, right? You're not going to see anything.
It's funny, I think I learned a lot of my royalty negotiation. I mean, my dad's a lawyer, so I did learn a lot from that, but I learned a lot of my royalty negotiation just from listening to hip hop, because half of rap music is about how they hate their record labels. And there's a lot of contract details, revealed in a Tribe Called Quest song. They learned about recoupment, and so I knew what to look for when I started signing deals.
All right, I'm going to listen to that later. But
yeah.
Look, I mean, the fact is a lot of creative people are not business people.
Right.